talk more about this, Policy Director of Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, Nadine Farid-Johnson. Thanks for being with us. As I understand it, your group has challenged some of the state bans on TikTok. What's your stance on it, and what's the argument for that?
Thank you so much for having me today. So what we're talking about here and why this bill is at issue is because it ultimately authorizes a wholesale act, which would be the limiting of access to an information sharing app that would threaten Americans' First Amendment rights. As we know, the First Amendment protects Americans' right to access social media apps and platforms of their choosing, and that's ultimately what's at issue here.
Do you share the concern that information, private as it may be, may end up in the hands of our adversaries, those which Alina just laid out, and it could be used in harmful ways?
I think it's absolutely true that there are concerns about TikTok's collection of information. TikTok does collect a lot of information about its users, and so do other social media platforms. So the concern here is that a ban on TikTok does not actually prevent other companies from continuing to collect information about Americans, nor does it prevent the Chinese government or other governments from obtaining our data, because they can use data brokers in the open market to be able to access the data as well.
So what is the right solution here? What do you believe is the fix?
So the first thing that Congress can do is pass a comprehensive data privacy law that restricts the access to Americans' data and allows us to limit the information that is available to data brokers. Now, there is an executive order that came out recently last month where the Biden administration is looking at the bulk transfer of data, of Americans' private data, and that's one step there. But really what we need is a comprehensive legislation to get this ball rolling.
What do you make of the fact we had an interview on just a little while ago of a, TikToker who's younger, probably in her late teens, early 20s, who says about the safety concerns, the privacy issues, I don't really care. I'm on the app. I like the app. That those aren't really a concern of people who are using it. How does that play into this argument?
It's actually a really important point, right? Because a lot of the users who are on this platform tend to skew younger. And that's actually one of the reasons that, as your correspondent noted, that a lot of politicians actually use the app is to reach those younger users. But that's why if we have comprehensive data privacy legislation in this country, then that takes that worry out of the hands of those younger users. And if we're already protecting their data, then that's a way to avoid the concerns that we have here.
And from the beginning, when you talk about a ban on social media companies like TikTok, I always am curious about the logistics of implementing something like that. How do you police it? What have you guys seen in your research at government agencies who have attempted it, even state agencies who are trying to ban the app? How that works day to day?
Well, ultimately, what we've seen is actually that the most recent ban that was attempted in Montana was struck down on First Amendment grounds. But you're right, the logistics here would be formidable. And as you know, this bill actually would prevent the app stores from carrying such an app. So we're looking here at something that would be quite challenging to implement. But ultimately, what we're really looking at here from a fundamental constitutional issue is the fact that this would be an affront to Americans' First Amendment rights. It would limit them from accessing information that is their right. And so there are better ways for Congress to carry out their concerns vis-a-vis TikTok and other platforms as well.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say, the government can do more. How about the responsibility, the burden on social media companies? Do you foresee, are you optimistic that that burden becomes more cumbersome, that it results in actual change?
Well, you have to be an optimist in my line of work, but I think that what we really hope to be able to see is that there is always room for more transparency on the part of platforms. There is always room to have journalists, researchers, et cetera, be able to access these platforms, to know how their algorithms work, and to share that information with the American public. So we would like to see continued actions on the part of the platforms to be more transparent, in addition to the efforts I've stated with respect to Congress.
Takes a village. Nadine Farid-Johnson, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.